Attending the Police Station Part 1, Pace and Process. Attending the police station is often the most important stage of a criminal matter. What happens there may well determine and certainly will affect the outcome of the conduct of the case going forward. As the legal representative, you're balancing a number of issues. The first is evidence. Is there enough of it to detain your client or consider charging? Secondly, process. Is pace being followed correctly by the custody officer and the officer in charge? Thirdly, legal matters. Can you explain to your client what they've been charged with, what the evidence is, and how they should respond to the investigation and interview? Fourth is documentation, keeping good contemporaneous notes of everything that happens, your instructions, and any items you may ask the custody officer to note on the custody record. Finally, there is time recording, because you need to keep an eye on the time you are there, how much of it relates to this matter, and in serious cases, whether there's going to be a case for an exceptional claim. Time recording is dealt with in a separate lesson. Our focus in this one is the offences in question, pace and process. It means looking at the Criminal Offences Handbook and the Police Station Attendance Form, both of which are found in LEAP and accessible when using a laptop at court or in the police station. We will start by looking at the Police Station Attendance Form. Open your criminal matter and click on the Guides and Precedents button. Then click on the Browse tab. From the left-hand side menu, navigate to the Criminal folder and the Criminal subfolder. Then click on the Magistrates Court folder and select Subfolder A at the police station. Now click on Police Station Attendance Record to open it in Word. This is a 5-page document that tracks all the elements of an investigation. It acts as a reminder of the basics that you must know and record, and it is built with the obligations of PACE in mind. The top of the first page asks for the key information around fee earner, source of instructions, and DSCC number. It also provides a space for you to note your times for later entry in the time recording screen. The first page continues with client details, some of which will be auto-filled from data entered into the matter file and information about an appropriate adult if one is required. It then follows with the key information for first attendance and performance times and whether legal aid was explained to the client or a form was completed. The next pages of this form include information that you will obtain from the custody record. This includes arrest and detention details, identification procedures, and your client's fitness for interview. If you have any doubts, call for the FME and note everything on page 2 of this form. Pages 2 over to 3 cover searches and samples and the different processes that must be recorded for intimate or non-intimate searches, as well as the authority under PACE used for these procedures. Note also what, if anything, resulted from these search and sample procedures. The next area relates to any co-accused. This section assumes you aren't acting for them, but simply noting their details and whether there is a potential conflict. If you're instructed by the co-defendant, then you will open a separate matter in LEAP and complete a separate police station attendance form for them. Page 4 details the instructions you receive from your client and the advice you give. You will be aware of the advisability of asking your client to sign your notice of advice given, especially regarding the handling of the interview, and this is clearly allowed for on page 4 of this document. If you aren't in a position to print this off for signature at the police station in a way that doesn't breach confidentiality, this is the one time where it is advisable to handwrite the key points on a separate piece of paper that the client can physically sign, so it is clear, for example, if you advise your client to answer no comment during the interview and why. The client is clearly signing their agreement to this course of action. This handwritten document can be scanned into the LEAP matter on return to the office, although the original must be held on file as well. Page 5 deals with any pre-interview comments your client is recorded as making and possibly signing a note of. As this may well have happened prior to your arrival at the police station, it should be recorded on the custody record. But don't assume that a silent custody record means that it hasn't happened. Ask the officer in charge, the arresting officer, and the custody officer, as well as your client, before completing this section. You can also use this page to make notes during the interview, including any suspension of interview times. As with all the pages on this form, you are not restricted to the space provided. You can keep typing and the form will accommodate it. Finally, note the outcome and any bail conditions that are imposed on your client. This is a good time to add any new bail back or hearing date into Leap's diary as well. It's advisable to save regularly when compiling the police station attendance form, so you don't lose anything valuable that was entered earlier. In any event, once you've finished working on it, click either Save and Close or Save Time and Close in the usual manner as appropriate. In part 2 of this lesson, we'll look at the Criminal Offences Handbook.